Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So tonight's video is probably going to be a bit more of a discussion, and I'm sure that you guys are going to be discussing things in the comment section with this video, and I'm interested to see what your views are. Anyway, a bit of background. Over on Patreon, one of my patrons messaged me saying, you've got to check out this particular performance because it's taken the internet by storm, at least it did when it was released, and there were loads of people reacting to it, and I don't really watch reaction videos, but I was sent a link in order to check out this particular reaction video or analysis, and it was a classical singer just pointing out things about the voice that she was listening to. So it wasn't a really in-depth analysis. The video was only about 8 minutes, but with the other videos, I mean, what I heard instantly is that the performance that she and everyone else is looking at is pitch corrected. And when I responded to the particular request to take a look at this video, I did say that of course I'd have to mention that it is pitch corrected and it is a live performance video. So then the person replied saying, oh, I can't believe that nobody else has said that. In all of the videos that have been done about this particular performance, nobody's mentioned that it's pitch corrected. But as you guys know, on this channel, we go into details and I point out everything about a particular performance, whether it's auto-tuned, pitch corrected, whether it's totally natural, all that kind of thing vocally, but also whether what we're seeing being played in the background on the various instruments actually coincides with what we're hearing. So anyway, back to this particular video, because the reaction that the person gave me was almost like, oh, I can't believe that we've been duped, or having that sense of being cheated, that it's almost not true that it's live because it has been pitch corrected after the live performance. So this is why we are going to be jumping into the particular video that I watched and a live version so that we can compare the totally natural voice to then the pitch corrected voice. But just before we jump into it, the first point of contention and the first thing to be discussed is what constitutes a live performance. And in my own opinion, and I subconsciously always do this, that I say that we're either looking at a live performance or it's not live. And even the ones that are labelled live, if they've been pitch corrected or auto-tuned, I don't class that as live because I'm old school. So when I went to see a live performance, the audio that you heard was live. It was literally being created as you're listening to it, and that's what I class as live. Anything that's been recorded and then post-edited in a studio, and especially with pitch correction, so therefore we're not hearing what was actually produced live, I don't class that as live, even though there are plenty of videos on YouTube that are labelled live, and this one is labelled live, but it has had pitch correction applied to it. So that's the first point. What do you class as live, and is it okay to then be edited afterwards, and at what point do you then draw that line? Because you can either, auto-tune, pitch correct vocals, you can then maybe play guitar lines again if you messed it up live and overdub those. Does that still count as live, or are you now listening to something that's been post-produced? And that's how I see it, is that being post-produced means after, and after isn't at the time, isn't live. So anyway, that's my point of view on it, but you guys can discuss that in the comment section along with a lot more things as we will run through this video. So the performance is by LP, and this is Laura the singer, and her initials are the name of the band but her stage name. So LP has a great voice and Laura is just super accurate with her vocals. Another question is, when you've got such an accurate vocalist, why apply pitch correction to it? Because it's already where it needs to be. And it answers another question that somebody else asked me when they said, or they asked, is pitch correction and auto-tune only used with the big labels, and are there independent artists that I can check out that don't use it? And sadly, it's not just the big labels that are doing it. Pretty much most people now on YouTube especially are using pitch correction and auto-tune. More so pitch correction now because it's not as obvious as auto-tune, and they can spend a bit of time working on the pitch and trying to make it a little bit less obvious. But when we're looking at it in this kind of detail, it does stand out, as I'll be able to show you. But this is the point, that does it actually degrade a performance? So if you listen to a performance and you think, oh yeah, that's great, it's amazing, and then you're told that it's pitch corrected, so the singer didn't actually hit those notes, those have been created afterwards, does that degrade the performance in your eyes? Does it make it now not as good as you thought it was because it's relied on technology to get the result? So that's another point. But we will actually get into listening to some singing, even though there's loads of points to be discussed. But we're going to be listening to the original video that I was sent to check out, and it's just the isolated vocal. And I'm just going to show you snippets of it, because we don't have to go through the whole thing to see that it's pitch corrected, because it'll be very clear on your screens. But let's jump into it.
When you get older, plainer, saner, will you remember all the danger we came from?
And, I mean, first of all, I didn't do all of this when I was listening to it the first time. I could just hear 440 hertz. You can just hear pitch correction, especially when it's just being, stuck to these lines all the time. With this kind of change in interval, look at this slide that we had up to the C4, which absolutely nails the line before coming back down again, and obviously on the line here, on the line, 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 all the way at the bottom. So I could hear straight away that, yeah, this was not a natural voice, because natural voices don't stick to 440 hertz, but we will listen on.
Burning like embers.
And there, you can actually hear a bit of the processing going on within the voice. And this is the process sound that you can't really hide. It's very difficult to hide, especially when you're listening to it in detail, especially with an isolated vocal, but you know the sound of it. You know the sound of a processor changing a signal and then giving you an output. And when I say about degrading a performance, you can see that from an artistic point of view, but also a literal point of view of degrading the quality of the original audio files. Because in order to change anything with audio, it degrades once you have processed it. It's gone through almost a destructive process to get to that final outcome. And this is what you'll find if you go into any digital audio workstation, or DAW. I'm so used to saying DAW, and a lot of people don't know what I mean when I say that, but it's your recording software like Logic and Pro Tools and Cubase, whatever you might use. But you can go in there, and if you pitch correct a voice or any instrument, and then pitch correct it again, and pitch correct it again, and pitch correct it again, you will hear the quality just go down and down and down to the point where it sounds like an old 16-bit game from the 90s, because the processing destructs the audio every time, because it's literally changing what it is. You can start to hear that even when it's been processed once. There's that tiny bit of sound or artifacts that are left within the voice. So let's continue.
Falling tender, longing for the days of no surrender years ago.
So you'll see this kind of thing, stuck to the line. Here we had this wobble of vibrato, and this is the thing about LP's voice, is she does have vibrato in there, and this is why it's pitch correction. So again, I'd say that it's just been used too heavily, but here at least we've got a little bit of expression in there. But again, snap to the line, snap to the line, snap to the line. You'll see lines being hit all over the place. But I mean, let me now go back to, or at least introduce for the first time, the live vocal, and we'll have a listen to this.
When you get older, plainer, saner, will you remember all the danger we came from?
And you'll see this kind of thing. When I said about LP just having a great voice anyway, with her pitch accuracy just being dead on, this is, even though we can see it's flat of the line here, the C4, this is dead on. And then at the top of the slide here, we go sharp of the line, and then we're a little bit below the C#4 here, and we're below the line here. We're in between lines here, and again, we ascend here, we're not stuck to the line. So this is now what I class as live. It's a natural voice. It hasn't been post-processed to now move all of these bits where we're not on lines onto lines. So, I mean, that's the huge difference. The other thing about LP, as an artist, as a songwriter, I mean, she's just a great songwriter. And when talking about putting emotion into the voice, putting emotion into the performance, with Laura's performance of this song live, she does sometimes go in between notes to the point of being flat. And we've said in lots of analysis videos, when you're singing about something that's a little bit more somber and down, and it's not a happy song, you will be flat because that's where that expression sits. So for me, there's more expression in the live performance that's relevant to the song than the live pitch corrected version. And I mean, it really does raise the question, why pitch correct it in the first place? But we'll address that afterwards. Let's just listen on.
Burning like embers, falling tender.
And there, that vibrato, again, we're happening between notes here, but you're not going to be listening to this thinking, oh, it sounds totally out of tune. It's in between notes, but it's just the expression of the vocal.
Longing for the days of no surrender years ago.
And here, we did hit directly on this G3. And again, this shows that great singers do hit the lines, but not time after time after time after time after time. It will be every now and again. They have, this is the thing, great singers have expression in their voice. Therefore, they don't stick on these lines all the time. They'll have this somber expression, and just for short spaces, they'll be directly over the lines. But that's just the way that music works.
And really know. So smoke 'em if you got 'em, 'cause it's going down.
And here's a great example of how accurate LP is with her voice. These intervals, you know, we're slightly flat of the A sharp 4, but then we go up to it, we come down, and we've got this little kind of 50-cent slide up to the G sharp 4, and you know, slightly below the line here, but then dead on the F4, again slightly below the second time that we go to it, but the D sharp 4, and then you know, pretty much bang on the D sharp 4 again, and then this vibrato to finish. So just this phrase shows you how accurate she is, that she can hit these intervals absolutely bang on to the ear. So again, it really does raise the question, why pitch correct a voice that is this accurate anyway? And just to expand on that, I think it's just, I don't know, maybe peer pressure or the pressure of everybody else doing it in the industry and very well-known artists just having it on all of their songs and everyone being at 440 Hz tuning. So then if you're not at 440 Hz tuning, it's seen as not being as good. And the problem is that everyone's chasing perfection, but music isn't perfect, and that's the point. It's an art form. So I would say, and actually I'd go as far to say as, because it is so widespread, using pitch correction now on every single song, I would go as far as saying that if you put a sticker on your album stating that you haven't used pitch correction, you would probably make more sales, and you would see, well, be seen as more of an artist, because you're saying, this is my sound. I'm not going to change it. You either like it or you don't, but I'm not going to conform to what everyone else is doing and using pitch correction and everything. This is my voice. You either like it or you don't. And a lot of people have messaged me saying, should albums, or is there a way for albums to be released saying that they've used auto-tune and or pitch correction, so at least we know what we're buying? But it's at the point now where I don't think that's possible, because it's too far gone. Everyone's doing it. Like even on, you know, independent YouTube channels, they're using pitch correction as well. So I think it's got to go the opposite way, that somebody's got to make a point of saying, look, this is my voice and this is me as an artist. So anyway, it's going to get to the point with great singers like this that you think, well, they're going to have to start pitch correcting it to not make it as obvious, so people like me can just tell everybody that it's happening. They're going to have to make it so less obvious that it's going to end up looking like a real voice anyway. So why not just let a great singer sing? But let's listen to the live unedited version a little bit more.
All I ever wanted was you.
Again, I mean, that was still such a great vocal, a great phrase, you know, slightly flat, but then we kind of get sharp as we go up above the A-sharp 4. And remember back to when we were looking at the pitch corrected version, these slides, you know, ended directly on the line. Whereas here, because it's a just free form vocal and it can go where it wants to, it's just ever so slightly sharp. I mean, still bang on, bang on, bang on, but then in between notes here. So we still get the expression at the end. And if this was just straight over the line as well, it wouldn't sound like a natural vocal because it would just be too perfect. And of course, these would then be adjusted to be directly over lines as well. So it'll all start to just conform too much to 440 hertz. But I'll let it play on a bit more.
I'll never get to heaven 'cause I don't know how. Let's raise our glass to all the things I've lost on you. Oh.
And again, there's so much expression in there, and the way that she kind of allows her voice to cry entering these phrases because of the expression. But again, great vocal here, just A-sharp 4, pretty much bang on, and then C5, a little bit sharp, but we started bang on. Down here, again, really accurate. Then between notes, I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, that great singers will hit the lines, but not 4, 5, 6, 7 times in a row, because there's got to be some expression in there with a great vocalist, and that's what we've got here. And then we hit the A-sharp 4. So let's go back to the pitch corrected version.
All I ever wanted was you.
And especially there on the U, you can hear that the onset of the pitch correction is instant. So it gets snapped to that rather than the expressive, you know, movement up to the note that we get with the vocal that hasn't been edited. But you can see here that, again, this is what I said, actually a great example of real voice versus pitch correction. We had on the real voice, we were on the line, I mean here, on the line, on the line, on the line, and just sharp of the line, on 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 the line. So you get so many more lines with pitch correction. And like I said, you'd have 3 or 4 notes and then you'd get some expression in there from a great vocalist. You don't have to see it to hear it. If you've got a sensitive ear, you can just hear that 440 hertz is being hit all the time, which just makes it not sound like a human voice.
I'll never get to heaven 'cause I don't know how.
Again, live, this whole phrase was really accurate, but it wasn't on the lines for every single note.
Let's raise our glass to.
And this kind of thing, when you hear that snap right at the beginning of a word, listen. You can actually hear a little bit of the processing there. I'm going to play that again in slow motion. Actually, you can hear it snap. It starts slightly flat, but like I said, the onset is pretty much instant. So by the time the note comes in, it's been, yeah, there's a little bit in there, but then it goes, two, or two, it kind of gets stuck. So yeah, again, I mean, when you're listening to that, you can hear that it's just almost as bad as an auto-tune sound. But this is more pitch correction. But when pitch correction is applied really heavily, it can start to sound like auto-tune. And again here, this A-sharp 4, it's just too... it's just too spot on. Let's go to the, here we go, A-sharp 4 of a real vocal, real voice, unedited. It was flat, and the vibrato, if we were to put a line through this, it would have been flat of the A-sharp 4. So when you hear a voice and you think, yeah, that was too perfect, that was 440 hertz bang on, then, I mean, the good thing is here, we can literally go between these two and look at what an A-sharp 4 looks like pitch corrected, kind of squashed and stuck to the line, and then what it was like unedited, wider, and flat of the note, but it's got the expression in there. So, I mean, this was just one of those videos that popped up recently, and it just happens to be LP that is being, you know, focused on here. But, you know, LP is just a great singer, and, you know, Laura doesn't need any pitch correction on her voice. That is clear from the live performance, and you know, she's a great songwriter as well. And she's written for songs for Cher and Rihanna and Christina Aguilera. And I mean, this song is just a great composition as well. I mean, it's so melodic, it's hooky all over the place. I mean, she throws in little whistles and things that really add to the atmosphere of the song. I mean, it's so well put together and it's so well produced as well. And this live performance is great, but there's always going to be this question of whether now pitch correcting the vocal detracts from it, because I would rather it just be left as it is, and then that is the art, because then you know what you're getting, and if anything you can say, well, it is what it is, and you know, the artist isn't having to change their voice or manipulate their voice to something that they can't do, because LP's voice is as accurate as it needs to be for this song. For me, it's a bit of a shame, and I guess it does detract for me, because as soon as I'm listening to a song or a live performance that has been pitch corrected, that's all I hear is 440 hertz, and I can hear it being snapped to lines. So now I don't get to appreciate the lyrical content or the expression in the voice or anything like that, because my ears can't get past the fact that it's like a processed signal. It's like a robotic sound in the voice. So yeah, for me it definitely does take away, and that's why I do love looking at older performances that are just genuinely, you know, produced to a point where it was the person's voice in front of the microphone that we're hearing. So then you'll get the people that say, well, I can hold a tune, I'm great at karaoke, so why don't I be a singer? Because I can hit the notes more accurately than some of these people who are being pitch corrected. And yeah, if you think about it, I mean, which other job could you do that you can't do, but you still do it? You can still get paid for it. Like, you know, a Formula 1 or NASCAR driver, I think it's called over in the USA, somebody who can't drive very well and, you know, doesn't stay on the racing lines and can't overtake and gets confused as to which the, you know, accelerator is, but they're still getting employed to be a racing driver. Or a footballer, you know, soccer player who isn't very good and, you know, can't control the ball very well, but they're a professional, but they do it at the highest level. Or a sprinter who isn't very fast. You know, in no other walk of life would you have this. Or I guess it would be like a sprinter who's not very fast, but they're allowed to use a motorbike or something, because that's the thing that gets them to the finish line at the same time as everybody else, or then beating everybody else because they're now faster, because they're using a tool to hide the fact that their ability for sprinting isn't good enough. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Certainly with music and art, it's always going to be a discussion where these things overlap. But anyway, just to finish with, I think personally, because I learned to sing from scratch, I couldn't hit pitches, you know, controlling vibrato, using my diaphragm, all of that kind of stuff, I had to learn to do. And I know that learning to be accurate pitch-wise with your voice takes a long time. You know, it took maybe a year, maybe 2 years to get that muscle memory of getting close to the notes and then holding a note, being able to vibrato, all these different things. So if somebody said to me now, oh, don't worry about hitting pitches, just use pitch correction, I would probably, if I had to start again, I would probably still go through the training, because artistically, I don't think I could deal with knowing that I'm not very good, that I can't hit the notes and I'm using something else to help me. Because then when I perform live, I know that, well, if I can't get a good, or if auto-tune fails, everyone's going to find out that I haven't actually spent the time working at my craft and being able to nail pitches. That's, for me, kind of integrity. That's, you know, something that's really important to me personally as an artist. I couldn't rely on something else to do my job for me. I guess it would be like, you know, playing guitar, pretending to play guitar live and just having it coming out the speakers, but I don't actually know how to do it, and then never saying that I can't play the guitar. Interesting one for tonight. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's a really interesting discussion. So yeah, let me know. And as always, keep those requests and suggestions coming for future videos in the comments section as well. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!